Hello and welcome back to another episode. Now today I am yet again in the debt of my local library. I went in there a couple of days ago to return some books and came across yet another little gem of a graphic novel. Whoever it is that buys for our local library, whoever's in charge of the graphic novel stock in particular, really deserves a raise because they're making some excellent choices. That said, not everything I get from the library is gold. Along with this particular book that I'm talking about today, I also got a less than impressive book, but we're not here to talk about that one, although I may touch on it a little bit. We're here to talk about, as the title suggests, Batman Death by Design, and boy, as I say, was this a good choice for the library, so well done. Whoever that person is, congratulations. This book actually came out in 2012 and is written by an author called Chip Kidd, and the artwork is done by an artist called Dave Taylor. The story is interesting, but the artwork is absolutely captivating. And this is one of the reasons why I want to talk to you today about this book, is because it really made quite an impact on me. It really grabbed me by the beard and insisted that I read the book as quickly as possible. The story actually is apparently inspired by the 1963-64 demolition of Pennsylvania Station in New York, and also in 2008 the collapse of some cranes, which unfortunately led to some people losing their lives in Manhattan. And the author really was wondering, what if these these themes were connected somehow, and what if this connection occurred in Gotham City? In that sense, this story in Death by Design revolves around the hulking mass of Wayne Central Station. This huge monolithic hub for the city's transport network is truly monstrous, but is also essentially crumbling. It has been long abandoned, and as the city has moved on in terms of its transportation needs, it's become a little bit irrelevant. And we sort of come into the story, come into Gotham at a time when they're about to demolish this old hub and this hulk, and replace it with a design by the incredibly arrogant architect called Ken Roomhouse. Now, Ken Roomhouse is one of these sort of internationally renowned architects, and we'll come back to architecture in a moment. But basically he's won the competition which the Wayne Foundation put forward to replace this hub. Now, I'm not going to spoil the story, but obviously I need to do some setup. Really the story kind of enters its kind of post-prologue with the collapse of some cranes. At a press conference where Bruce Wayne is talking about how the station is going to be replaced, this symbol of Gotham, this thing which his family put in place, is about to see a new chapter. The cranes collapse, and Bruce is almost actually killed, we are told. And really, this story at its heart is about quality and integrity in architecture and city design versus, I suppose, basic impact and cynical approach to management in architecture. And that may sound like a strange and uninteresting Batman story, but actually it makes for a very, very good juxtaposition of Batman, Gotham City, and also Bruce Wayne. Of course, Bruce Wayne finds himself at the heart of this drive for change because his family is essentially one of the only driving forces in Gotham which can fund change and renewal of the city. And so what we find is this very interesting interplay between, I suppose, the philosophy of architecture, the character of Batman, and also the role of Bruce Wayne in the ongoing growth and I suppose nourishment of the city and its infrastructure. Now, there is a moderate love interest in this story in the shape of a character called Cyndia Sill, who is a socialite, much like Bruce Wayne, and unfortunately, much to Bruce's surprise, and I say unfortunately because he really wasn't interested in this, she's actually not just shallow and rich. She's actually genuinely interested in what the old Wayne Central Station meant as an architectural statement, and also what should happen next for the city. This book is simply brimming with people who are passionate about the architecture of Gotham, and therefore this really is a story about Gotham City, and as has been featured in other books as well in the past. We'll come to that in a moment. There is a period-appropriate vigilante called Exacto. He's kind of like a mix between the Rocketeer and, I suppose, a sort of version of, I don't know, of like Doc Brown, I guess. He's slightly mad, but he's also very technologically savvy, and he's very much from the 1930s, which is pretty much when this story is set. The Joker does make a couple of appearances in the story, quite literally turning up like a flash of colour in the night. This book is a very monochromic book, and when the Joker turns up, he is basically one of the few colourful elements in the story. Really, he only turns up to throw a spanner in the works. He's not a focus of this story, but he, along with at least one other member of the Rogues Gallery, does make an appearance. So design and the philosophy of architecture are consciously the focus in many respects of this story. And that may sound surprising, but that said though, these ideas have been touched on in the past in other Batman media. For example, Batman Cataclysm, when Gotham City is razed to the ground by an earthquake and a new city has to be built in its stead. The Gates of Gotham story. Even the computer games, for example, Batman Arkham, the Arkham games, especially Arkham City, deals with what it is to be responsible for the architecture of Gotham, the design of Gotham, and what the history of that actually represents. So here, design is literally at the heart of the story. Good design, elegant design, dangerous design, and this really brings us back to the title of the story, Death by Design. The art in this book by Dave Taylor is really the highlight of this experience. One of the first things that we see in the book is actually a redesigned version of the Batman logo, which initially I really didn't like. I thought, no, that's more like a Nightwing logo. But actually the whole point of it is that it is designed almost to the point of being over-designed. It's symmetrical, it's simplistic, it's minimalist, and in many ways it's dealing with and hinting at the ideas that this story is going to be tackling. What is good design, and how can good design make lives better but also endanger lives? The design of Batman himself is remarkable. The drawing of Batman is really very good in this book. He, I suppose, from panel to panel, can represent, I suppose, a bit of an homage to the original design of Batman, even his very first appearance. But also can switch to something along the lines of a slightly more animalistic Batman, a Batman with the slightly exaggerated shapes in the head and the mask and the cowl and the cape, which I very much appreciate. I like the way that Batman slightly morphs and is animalistic in this book. I very much appreciated that. Another homage to the original Batman comes in the shape of the Bat Gyro. This particular vehicle made an appearance in the 1930s in the comics, and really is perfect for this story, which is set in the 1930s. The whole book is dense and beautiful and riddled with the sort of I don't know, sort of steampunk or chrome punk kind of sensibility. It is beautiful artwork, and actually, as the artist himself says, this artwork is rendered in a sort of blue pencil and graphite combination, which means that actually it's almost impossible to erase anything. Supposedly not a single line was rubbed out or redrawn in this story. And as the artist literally says, this is his most honest work, therefore. And again, you really have to appreciate that. The cityscapes, the office blocks, the people, everything is beautifully rendered in this experience, this book. And yeah, I very much enjoyed the art. However, with this beauty does come a certain element of risk. There are situations in this book artistically where I suspect, had they taken a different approach, the artist would have made slightly different choices or maybe corrected certain elements. For example, from panel to panel in certain elements of the story, Bruce's face appears to change. Not dramatically, but enough that you might think, well, okay, I can see that's probably, you know, you might need to move the nose up a little bit or something. This is again exposing that honesty of the artwork, where perhaps in another story maybe that would have been a first draft, and then they would have gone back and maybe slightly shifted the face around a little bit. So there are risks in being so honest with the artwork, but that honesty, that raw edge, is something which really, again, serves the story. This story is about the process of design and the process of creating, especially starting in a visual medium. I suppose the central question, though, is whether or not a story called Death by Design trips over its own boots, you see what I mean? Does this story actually commit the central sin that it's trying to highlight? Is it, as it were, style over substance? Is this actually trying to achieve a look which is in fact too dangerous for its own good? And that's exactly what's at the heart of the story. In some places, I'm sorry to say, yes. In some places, the art does kind of get in the way of the story, because it does, in some places, serve as a distraction. Usually in a comic book, the art serves the story, as it were, whereas here the story kind of serves the art at times, I suppose, demonstrating the tendency towards the arrogance of bad architecture and bad design. But it also, as well, very much engenders the hard work and texture of good design and the passion that goes into designing something which is for the ages and something which is meant to have an impact. Because of this, some story threads seem to drift off here and there. Some elements of the plot, which you think are going to go in certain places, just are never quite picked up again. And in particular, some characters do disappear into the background. Alfred, who I know is meant to be somewhat in the background in this story, really could have done with a couple more panels. I liked this Alfred an awful lot. It would have been great to see a bit more of him. Indeed, it would have been great to see a bit more of this Batman, actually. Batman in this story is has got a bit more of a wry sense of humour. He's a bit more dry and I think quippy, I suppose. He's almost Spider-Man-like, which isn't necessarily suitable for all Batman stories, but would have been nice to see a bit more of it in this one. So again, in some ways, the art did kind of get in the way because it was the point of the story, the design of the thing, the exploration of those themes. And I suppose if you're going to cram a book with so many themes, some will suffer. Inevitably, but that didn't really take away from the overall experience. So all in all, the story is superb, and as I say, it very much grabbed my attention. Over the course of one night, I was very much compelled to complete this book. It's around 104, I think, pages, and I just gobbled it up very, very quickly. This isn't a seminal Batman story, but it is a good Batman story. It is a lovely nod as well, I suppose, to the origins of Batman and to the original, in many ways, the original artwork and the original vision which surrounded Bob Kane's Batman. So in that sense, it's a good Batman story. But more than that, this is really an excellent use of Batman and the context of Gotham City to explore themes and issues which have always been in Batman stories. The character of the city, how the city affects its people, how design and how architecture is integral to whether or not, for example, a city becomes a crime-ridden hellhole which spawns Batman, or whether actually the role of people like Batman and his alter ego, Bruce Wayne, it should also be not only just to fight crime, but also to provide the context for a good life for the citizens of Gotham. And so therefore this is an important Gotham story, as it were, a story in which the idea, the very soul of Gotham City, if not in places the texture of Gotham City. There's some beautiful drawings here, for example, Batman nestled near gargoyles and this kind of thing. Is really given centre stage, and I very much appreciated it. This notion of death by design has so many layers. This is a very multi-layered book. It is a Batman story on the surface. It's an architectural treatise just below, and even further below that, you can really get into what it means to design a city and what it means to design a place in which people will live, but also in this case in which people like Bruce lost their parents. How can Gotham be made better? And in this story, one of the answers is Gotham can be made better through better design and better consideration of how that design affects its people. So I really like this book. I was kind of surprised by it. Initially, again, I often go into a Batman story expecting a Batman story, and this is a Batman story. This absolutely is a Batman story. Don't get me wrong. And when the Joker turns up, it is explosive and fun. And it's great, but it's also a great opportunity to really think about real world issues, I suppose, in terms of architecture and design, but also about about Gotham City itself, and how we often hear about these throwaway statements about how the Wayne Foundation has helped. For example, in Batman Begins, how the Wayne Foundation has built a railroad for the city. But also, you really think about actually how that impacts the quality of life, and also the legacy, the shape of the city, the character of the city, what makes Gotham City distinct, and I think that these are really good ideas to explore. So this is kind of mid to expert level Batman reading, Batman reading level expert, but it's well worth a look if any of these themes interest you at all. As I say, the artwork alone is worth getting this book for. I myself have already put it on my Amazon wish list, and hopefully soon I'll be buying it. So there you go. I couldn't give this more of a hearty recommendation. Hopefully this has been remotely interesting to you, and if you haven't heard about Death by Design, you really should at least take a peek. So why not pop down your local library and ask them to get a copy, and see what you think for yourself. As ever, guys, until next time, whatever you get up to, do take care. Bye bye.